8.3, plant and animal cells. So there's many different shapes and sizes of cells depending on their function. So for instance, we can see a nerve cell has a long tail, if you will, and the cell body is kind of up here. A white blood cell is more spherical, has some more cell shapes that we would be more familiar with, and muscle cells are long and skinny cells. There's a bunch of descriptions and labels here in our plant cell. However, we don't need to know all of them, okay? I am going to highlight the ones that we need to know. So let's start with the nucleus, okay? We don't need to know these two, just that this is the nucleus here, all right? It is the cell center where all DNA is stored, and it directs all cell processes. We need to know the endoplasmic reticulum. We don't need to differentiate, though, between smooth and rough. We just need to know that the endoplasmic reticulum is connected to the nucleus. I'll go through everything and the cell functions, like the description of each of the organelles in a moment. We'll just talk about which ones to know here and label in your own plant cell. We don't need to talk about ribosomes. We do need to talk about the cell wall, chloroplasts. We'll talk about mitochondria, the cytoplasm. We won't talk about these guys. We'll talk about vacuoles, the Golgi apparatus. We will talk about the plasma or cell membrane, and we don't need to know about the cytoskeleton wall of adjacent cell. It's just trying to describe that this is one cell and this is another cell butted right up against it. So you can remove a few of these labels here. We don't need all of them, but we will describe each of the ones that we've circled here. Looking at the animal cell here, we're going to label very much the same things. So we need to talk about the nucleus. We don't need to talk about these two, just that generally the nucleus is, again, containing the DNA. We'll talk about the endoplasmic reticulum again, and we don't need to know about the smooth and rough, just generally endoplasmic reticulum there. We will talk about the Golgi. No need to look at ribosomes. We'll look at the cytoplasm, and we'll look at the cell membrane again, not the plasma membrane. We call it the cell membrane here. Mitochondria, we don't talk about these little cytoskeletons. We don't talk about centrioles, and we don't talk about lysosomes. All right. So here's where we can go through the different functions of each of these. So like I said, the nucleus controls activities within the cell, and it contains the DNA of the cell. Do animal cells have a nucleus? Yes. And do plant cells have a nucleus? Yes. The cytoplasm is the jelly-like substance, and it holds the organelles in place, okay? It's kind of the filling of the cell. Do animal cells have it? Yes. Do plant cells? Yes. Mitochondria uses oxygen and then releases energy to the cell. Mitochondria occur in both animal and plant cells. A vacuole stores water and food waste. You can see that a vacuole is giant in a plant cell, and it's small. It's still present, but it is small within an animal cell. The endoplasmic reticulum transports materials like food, water, and waste around and then out of the cell. It is present in both the animal and plant cell. The Golgi body or Golgi apparatus, depending on what it's referred to in the question, it means the same thing. They package up and transport proteins, and then they hold waste until the cell is ready to get rid of them as well. They occur in both plant and animal cells. The cell membrane holds the cell together. It's semi-permeable, meaning it allows things to pass in and out, but it is selective. It keeps harmful things out. The cell membrane keeps the cytoplasm together. Without it, the cytoplasm, like cells would just be like jello and mold together. Okay, so cell membrane differentiates one cell from another. The animal and plant cell have cell membranes. The cell wall is protection and strength for the cell. There is not a cell wall in an animal cell. There are only cell walls in plants. And this is because plants need a little bit more rigidity or strength to hold themselves up. Chloroplast contains chlorophyll, which gives the green color to plants and collects sunlight for photosynthesis. Since animals do not undergo photosynthesis, they do not have chloroplast. The plant cells do. There's a video, it's a lot more fancy than my diagrams of cells, and it can help to describe some of the processes that happen within a cell. Note that there are some additional structures that we don't need to talk about, like ones that we'd crossed off in our diagrams. And it talks about a eukaryotic cell. A eukaryotic cell is just another name for an animal cell. There's some practice on page 173 of your textbook, number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And don't forget to label them in your student notes.